Welcome to Alligator Preserves, everyone. I am your host, Laurel McHargue. And today I have with me a USA Today's best-selling author of romance and women's fiction. Today's guest, highly acclaimed and totally awesome author and person, Beverly Jenkins. Beverly, welcome to Alligator Preserves.
Thank you so much for having me, Laurel. I'm looking forward to our chat.
Well, I am too. Where are you chatting from? Where are you right now?
I'm in a small town, um, about 45 miles west of Detroit. So I'm near
Okay.
Ann Arbor, Michigan, Ypsilanti, and I'm like 8 minutes from the airport, which is great for flying in and out. So yeah.
All right. I'll have to look into flights pretty soon because I'm going to want to visit you someday. Just saying.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question first of all that probably every single person has asked you in the past in all your interviews, and you've had many interviews. What is your favorite breakfast?
Oh gosh, coffee and cigarettes.
Coffee and cigarettes. Would you recommend this for other
No,
authors?
I would not recommend this for anyone. Don't do this, children. Yeah.
Beverly, should I call you Beverly? Should I call you Miss Bev? What
Whatever's comfortable for you is comfortable for me.
I
Okay.
love the name Beverly, so I'm going to call you Beverly. We met at
Okay.
this year's Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers Colorado Gold Writers Conference, where you were a keynote speaker. And I just have to say, we're going to get to your work in a little bit, but I need to brag on you just a little more. May I brag on you just a little bit more?
Sure, please do. Please do.
All right. You were, and I read this from your website, and again, you have so many kudos. I'm honored that you're here, but you were at the Black Readers Conference. You were one of their keynote speakers in 2021, at which time you were the most read author in the canon. Okay.
Yeah.
Followed by Toni Morrison,
Yes.
Octavia Butler, and Tiffany Jackson. How did that make you feel when you found out that you were followed by Toni Morrison? I mean, come on.
Well, I don't know if Toni followed me or not. I mean, it's humbling. I try not to read my press reports because it gives you an inflated idea of who you may think you are.
Ah,
Um, I like to measure my success by my interactions with my readers. So even though I've never hit the New York Times list, we all know that's a crazy thing
yeah.
because we don't know how they figure that out. But when I have a reader who tells me that, like the Blessing series, that they read their mom the series while their mom was in hospice and how much joy it brought to her. I like to measure my success by that as opposed to a list or whatever. But of course, I'm honored to be on any list that has Toni Morrison and Octavia Butler and all of the other great icons of not just Black history, but I mean Black literature, but American literature.
Yes.
So I'm honored. I'm
Yes.
honored.
Yes. As well you should be. Let's go way back. Let's go
Okay.
way back to say your first real experience in the literary world. You were the editor of your elementary school's fourth grade newspaper.
I was the Jones Elementary School Comet.
Myra Jones Elementary School comment.
Myra Jones, yep, on the east side of Detroit. Um, I was the editor. I did a couple of the, little poems and a little couple articles on teachers but I never wanted to be a writer.
Why
Never.
not? Why not? Why not?
Well, I it never occurred to me. All I
You
wanted
didn't.
to do, all I wanted to do was work in a library. That was it. To be surrounded by books, 24/7 or whatever. But yeah, I was one of those little whiz kids. I did all of the announcing for all the programs. One year I was Mrs. Santa Claus. And the wonderful thing was that, my mom, I'm the oldest of seven. Dad was usually working the third shift, and she would make sure that I was there and help me memorize these 20 pages of and then we whatever Mrs. Santa Claus was saying in the Christmas pageant, right? So but they put me on the stage. Mrs. Cheeseborough, we had a class called auditorium. uh they taught us everything in the 50s and 60s. We had an auditorium class, and they put me on the stage in, I don't know, the third grade, and how to speak to an audience and how to project your voice and all of that. And I've been on the stage ever since. I have never met a microphone I did not like. So
I love that, and I love that we were able to do that back then. And again,
yeah.
I grew up in the 60s, and
Yeah.
yeah, I taught English at our local high school a while ago, and could not teach public speaking because it wasn't tested.
Yeah. They're, they're
And
they're they're not teaching kids the way we were taught. And doesn't it has not served them well.
no, no, I taught it anyway.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
So your dream job was to work in a library,
Hmm.
which evidently you did.
Hmm.
How did you work there inspire your writing? Because eventually
Um,
you became a writer.
well, I did, not because of, I just sort of backed into it. Um, Libraries were so important, and my mother's was an avid reader. Everybody in my family is an avid reader. My dad was an avid reader, but he read science stuff, so he's responsible for all of the science stuff that's in my books. Um, but because we lost her 5 years ago. She was 90.
Wow.
Had a great
Mhm.
life, full of books.
And
So
children.
yeah, yeah, yeah. When she grew up in Detroit, she was born in 27. When she grew up, the library, she couldn't take her books home. Libraries were segregated. Now, not like in the South where I have girlfriends who they and their moms and dads weren't even allowed in the building. But in Detroit, they were allowed in the building, but you couldn't take the books home. So my mom was like, okay, I'm good with that. She's a teenager, loved to read. So she would go to the library on Saturdays and just sit for hours reading. Um, and then the books by African American authors were not shelved in with the rest of the collection.
Wow.
They were behind the desk and you had to ask for them. So she was like, okay. So she would sit and read and read and read and read, for hours on her Saturdays when she had free time. So when it came time for me to get my library card, because I got my first library card like at 7 or 8, she didn't care what we read as long as we were reading. And she never ever said, well, you can't read that, you can't read that, you can't read that. And I would walk every Saturday, probably 15 blocks, to the Mark Twain Library on the corner of Gratiot and Burns on the east side of Detroit. And I would bring home as many books as my skinny little arms could carry. And I'd read them during the week, get my chores done on Saturday morning, and walk back to the library. So that was my life. That's all I ever wanted to do was to be. And then to fuel this career, had a lot of Black history in the home. I tell people my mother was Black before it was fashionable, right? So when I left school, Michigan State, I started working there as a clerk, full time. They had a complete set of the Journal of Negro History, which was published by Carter Woodson, who did started out as Black History Week, and then was elongated to Black History Month. So there were like, I don't know, I can't tell you how large the collection was, but I know that they had a full collection, Michigan State University's library. And I would take armfuls of those out onto the river because there's a river that runs through campus. And I take those out to the banks with my lunch and just through and say, okay, I remember mama telling me about this and about that. And little did I know that, because this was in the 70s, 25 years later, I'd be referencing those articles that I looked at on my lunch hour in my books, because I put a bib list in the backs of all of my historicals, especially the older ones. Because people say, well, where'd you get that information from? And it also answered the questions of, did Black people really do that? Yes. Here's the site. After you read it, come back and talk to me, that kind of thing. So I credit my work as a library clerk, and my mother and my father, and all my aunts and uncles, because she had 6 brothers and sisters also, with who I am today. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I love that story. Did your folks read to you before you learned how to read? And
My mother read to me in the womb, 1950, which
yeah.
people did not do. I remember the first thing I remember her reading to me, and I had to be, I don't know, little, was James Weldon Johnson's The Creation. It's the poem where, and God said, it was good, and as I got into my 60s and my 70s, she told me a story that she used to buy me those little cloth books for my dad. And I was still in the crib and I would eat the pages. And she said she would tell me, eat those words, baby, eat those words, baby. So I tell people, I said, well, I guess I'm an author because I got all this, all these words that I ate when I was, a toddler. I had to do something with them. So yeah, we were a reading family. I remember my grandmother had one of those old, big old houses, and she had a huge linen closet, but there was no linen in it. It was all books from my mom and her brothers and sisters, and all of the books that they accumulated. So I could go in there, and it was like a personal library, and I could, and then when people died, I got their books. When my dad's from Florida, mom's from Detroit. When his sister died, he came back with a box of books, and he says, "Here's Cecilia's books." And in one of the books that I, of course, remember was the complete works of Shakespeare. So here I am at 11, looking through this and trying to figure out the language, and I did, and I'm a big Shakespeare fan today. So my whole life has been guided on that plane by books and books and books.
I recently, I think you were talking about cleaning something out in your kitchen. I do this, I don't know, maybe once every 5 years. I think it needs to be done. You clean stuff out, you take everything out of shelves and all. And my husband and I recently did all our bookshelves. We have probably about 6 bookshelves. And I told my husband, you need to make more bookshelves because, things are kind of stacking up. So we did a bit of a purge, which was difficult. It's difficult to purge books, but passing them on, ones that you're not going to read again. But yeah, we're surrounded by them as well, and they're just incredible. So when did you first develop confidence in your ability to take the words that you had ingested and put them onto a page?
Well, I was writing what would be my first book, Night Song, for me. But I got my first inkling that I knew how to write. I was in, I think, the 10th grade in high school.
Okay.
And Miss Berkowitz gave us an assignment to write a short story. And so I wrote the short story, and she came back. When she handed it back, she said, I want to talk to you after class. I was like, oh shit, am I in
Uh-oh.
trouble? What? She wanted to enter. Detroit had so many different things for art back then, but they had a citywide short story contest for high school kids. And she wanted to enter it into the contest. And me being, who I am, east side of Detroit, you know, no confidence in that. I had a whole lot of other confidence in a lot of other things, but not in writing. And I told her, nah, I think that. And she was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, because I didn't have any confidence in that. So that sort of let me know that I knew how to write, but I never pursued it. Um, but my first book, I was writing for me because I always loved a good love story,
Mhm.
but there was nothing on the screen or on the page that reflected a love relationship for people who looked like me.
Mhm.
So Toni Morrison always said that if there's a story that you want to write that's not out there, then you need to write it.
Yes.
So I was writing this romance just for me after work. This was BC before children. It was just me and my husband. And it turned out to be my very first published book because I was working in a library at State. I had everything. I could go into cataloging. The little old ladies loved me. I was in my 20s back then. So, anything science fiction or history that I wanted to grab off of a cart before it went onto the shelves, they would say, okay, take it. Just make sure you bring it back and it's nice and clean and all of that. So it was like being in a candy store.
Yeah.
But I was writing after work just for me.
And so was Night Song your first published
First
book?
book, yeah,
So
published in 94.
so how did you make that happen? You had to submit it. How did it get submitted, and how did you find
Well,
out that
I
Avon wanted it?
um I had a girlfriend at work. I was working in the library at Park Davis, which was America's, I think, first big pharma. They were originally founded in Detroit, and they had moved the plant to Ann Arbor, Michigan, when the University of Michigan is. And I was working in the reference library. Working in the library of a pharmaceutical company was just crazy. Scientists would come in and say, that red book that used to be on this shelf, do you know where it is? And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Does it have a title? But anyway, had a full staff, and one of the women that I was working with got published. And she had written this sweet romance. The sweet romance is a closed door romance. Uh,
Cozy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No love scenes on the page. And she had been published. The book was bought by a small publisher in Michigan. And so we were celebrating her. And I was telling her about this little story that I was working on at home. So she asked me if I would bring it in. And I brought it in, and she looked at it and she said, you need to get this published, right? But this was like 1987 or 88. And back then, mass market publishing was not open to people who looked like me. You had Terry McMillan, maybe. I don't know if Terry was early 90s. But anyway, there was nothing. So I asked her, so where do you think I'm going to get this published at? So I tell people that her name's Laverne. We're still good friends. I tell people that she harassed me every day. Find you an agent, da 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 da. And I cannot tell you how I found Vivian Stevens. Vivian was the first Black editor at Harlequin. She was the founder of Romance Writers of America. She basically built American romance. She had Boons and whatever they did, Boons and whatever from London. I can't think of the second. I'm getting old. Think of the second part of the name.
I am too.
Yeah, yeah. There you go.
Keller.
And she had gotten out of publishing, Vivian had, and she was running a small literary agency. So I don't know if it, because I used to read Romantic Times, and I don't know if I found her address in Romantic Times was like a trade magazine for romance. You had
Mhm.
authors and interviews and conventions and all of the information that as a romance lover you would find in the pages of Romantic Times. Now, I don't know if I found her address in there or what, but anyway, I sent my little raggedy manuscript to her. She called me probably 4 days later and said, "This is amazing. I want to represent you." And I was like, "Okay," but I was in my dream job. I was in a library, right? So I probably received enough rejections to paper my house and yours, right? But I didn't care because I wasn't planning on getting published in the first place. I got my dream job. I'm getting up and going to a library every morning, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I had been and had my heart set on being published, I'm sure all these rejections would have broken my heart. But I didn't care. I was doing, my dream job. And it was interesting because 3/4 of the rejections said, "Great writing, but great writing, but." And the but had to do with they didn't have a box for it. Now, the story is set in one of the historic towns founded by freed blacks after the Civil War. So, in New York's mind, and probably everybody else in America, a 19th century story starring African Americans should have been about slavery. So here I come with an Oberlin educated school teacher, a sergeant in the 10th Cavalry, which is the Buffalo Soldiers, in an all black town on the plains of Kansas. And they were like, "What the hell is this?"
Where do we put that on a bookshelf in a store?
Yeah. Excuse me. So, so there on June 3rd, 1993, my late husband's birthday. He was alive back then. His birthday. Ellen Edwards called me, and she was the executive editor at Avon Books. And she said, "We want to buy this." And I was like, "Okay." So from there,
What's the catch? Were you thinking what's the catch or
right, yeah, yeah. And like I said, I had my dream job.
yeah.
But I was like, okay, so um it was published in the summer of 94 alongside Walter Zacharias, who was the publisher of Kensington, which was an independent publisher, which is still independent today. Um, Started the Arabesque line, which was a line devoted to African American contemporary romance writers. We call it the Summer of Black Love. So those ladies were being published, and me being the only person doing historicals, I was published too. So much critical acclaim, 5-page spread in People magazine. That February, the book came out in July. People approached me in February, and the woman who did the article, her name was Nancy Drew.
No,
Yes, it was. That was her real name.
Nancy Drew.
And she's like, "I've heard all the jokes." I was like, "I
Yeah.
got no jokes. I got no jokes." Um, Great sales. African American women had been reading romance forever, and they were just over the moon. Stories of one woman who said she saw the cover. She said she immediately opened it to the back to see if it was written by a black woman. She said, and when she found that out, she said she sat, catch a raven. Yeah, that's my
Mhm.
latest. But yeah. So she said she sat down on the floor right then and there and started reading. So they kept sending me contracts and I kept sending them books. And so now 60 books later, I think. Um,
I was going to ask how many they made you write.
yeah, they made me write 60 books, I think, of all the genres: contemporary, romantic suspense. I have 2 YAs, 2 young adult historicals, which the young women absolutely loved. Um, it's a blessed life, you know. It's just I'm grateful every day when I get up in the morning, you know.
I am too. But did they make you write them, or after you got your first one published, did did you get the itch or the bite, or did all of a sudden
No,
you had to write?
I had always told stories. You know, my sisters will tell you that when we were growing up, we were the three of us in one bedroom, right?
Yeah.
And I would tell them stories at night. And it was sort of like what the kids now call fanfic.
Yeah.
So it had Motown people, it had the Star Trek people, we had the Man from Uncle, all of this, you know, with adventure and a romantic element and all that. So, and like I said, I was writing a story after work,
Yeah.
and I had stories in my head that I wanted to tell. I just didn't know that this was going to be the venue for them. So, but
Did,
no, they didn't make me write them. I had fun, you know. I was enjoying it, and especially the reaction from the readers, mostly Black, but back then a small core of other ethnicities,
yeah.
and now the big crossover. Everybody's reading Miss Bev, so I'm
Everybody needs to read this, and we'll get to we're going to get to Catch a
Raven
Raven
got
in a minute, but I have more bragging to do on you. Al Roker, I think everyone has heard of Al Roker, from Al Roker Entertainment. He says that your storytelling, and he was talking about your Bring on the Blessing series.
right. Yep.
He talked about your storytelling. He said that it is uplifting and engaging, improves. It really does take a village. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess he grew up with foster children. Do you want to talk a little
Yeah.
bit about that?
Yeah. Yeah. From what I'm hearing, yeah, I'm an adoptive parent. Um, we adopted my son, and he was 5 in '92, and when that book came out, I got so many letters. People sent me pictures of their foster kids. They sent me pictures of their adopted kids. Um, and it's a riff on an article that I read in Parade magazine back in the, I don't know, mid 70s, I guess. It's called A Place Called Hope. And an American academic, I think she's from Iowa, petitioned the United States government um, to occupy an abandoned Air Force base. And she wanted to bring in at-risk kids and have foster parents raise them in this environment.
Hmm.
And she got the okay. And I don't know why. I put it, we authors all have drawers where we put stuff. And I pulled that article, and this is before I even knew I was going to be published. And I pulled that story and put it in my drawer. And so when my agent sold the Blessing series without telling me, um, I know.
How does that happen?
Yeah. Yeah, she called me one day. She had been on me about writing a small town series. And I was like, I want to do that. You know, I'm content writing these award-winning African American historicals, right? And she said, but you do small towns so well. And it was at the sort of the beginning of the big small town craze that romance has been on since then. But she called me one day and she said, I sold a series. And I'm like, what series are you talking about? And she said, you know that small town series I've been trying to get you to write? And I'm like, yeah. And she said, well, I sold it. All they want is a paragraph, and here's the money. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm writing a small town series.
What did she want in the paragraph?
The editor just wanted to know what the story is about. That's it. Because, by then, I mean, this was like 2010, maybe. I mean, I'd already written maybe 15 books. So they knew my writing. And it was the same editor who'd been with me forever. But yeah, so then came the idea of where to place it. And Night Song, my first book with the town that publishing didn't know what to do with, the people there kept coming up in my brain because I've created a couple small towns. I've created that one. I've created one on the shores of Michigan, between Michigan and Chicago. Real places. So I went with Henry Adams, which is the town that Night Song is based on, but I brought it into the 21st century, 20th century back then. So, you look at small towns and, they don't, because I'm in a small town. And a lot of the small towns, you don't have any young people because everybody's moved away. You've got, very little infrastructure. You've got um, just a dearth of stuff, no technology, that kind of thing, right? So that's what I did with Henry Adams, it was founded in 1878. And now here we are looking at the same town in 2020, 2010. And so the Blessing series is based on that original town, and the descendants of the people who were in that book. Some of them are still, their descendants are living still in the town. So I was able to bring in, all of the old stuff with new stuff. And so Al Roker wanted to do it as a series. We're getting around to your question, right? Wanted to do it as a series, but it didn't work out. A lot of times when you get stuff optioned, it doesn't work out. I had a dance with Sony with one of my historicals. And we got a first read, and we had a showrunner, and then the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And so that sort of killed that. So the rights for the Blessing series have now been picked up by John Legend's group, Get Lifted. I don't know if you have not seen Jingle Jangle, I don't know if it's on Prime or Netflix, but his group did that. They also did La La Land.
Okay.
So yeah. So they are looking for a writer right now. They bought all 12 books. So we'll see what happens. They're pretty excited. I was pretty excited. I tried not to fangirl when John Legend stuck his head into the meeting with the Zoom meeting we had. So we'll see what happens going forward. We'll see.
Well, I'm trying not to fangirl with you right now, but I'm gonna tell our listeners something else about what you said in this. You absolutely touched me during your keynote speech, and I have to read this in a Goodreads interview back in December of 2020. So 4 years ago, you were talking about your platform and how, as authors, we need to have an author platform. When I first heard back in 2011, I think when I left teaching to write, I heard author platform and I was thinking, do I need to build something to stand on? And I didn't know what
I understand. Yeah.
I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
It makes sense, but you were talking about your platform and how, and I'm going to quote you, there's enough light for everybody. And if I can shine my light on somebody who's just coming out, or somebody who's struggling, or somebody who just needs a little slight push to the center of the stage, why wouldn't I do that? It doesn't take anything away from me. I still got the light. I've still got my platform. So it's much better to be kind than be a bitch.
Much better to be a blessing than a bitch. Yeah. Sometimes you got to be a bitch though, but most of the time, you got to be kind and be a blessing.
I just love that. So what made you bring that up about your platform and how?
That's who I am. I try and go out of my way to make the path wider because I'm the descendant of people who the right to read was enshrined in the law. They could not read.
Mhm.
It was against the law. So you take that heritage and to be someplace, and I said this in my acceptance speech for when they gave me the Nora Roberts Award, that can you imagine? Now here I am, a world-renowned writer, descended from people who the country would not let read. So you always try, at least for me,
Mhm.
I always try to remember where my feet are.
Yeah.
Um, and if I can help somebody make it a little bit easier for them, um, I have a friend who's a writer and she's very successful, but she is the shyest child on the planet. And the first time I met her, she said, "Well, I don't want to talk." I said, "I'm sorry, but you're going to talk today because you got to sell your pizza. Nobody else is going to sell your pizza for you." And she still remembers that. And she laughs at me. And she said, "Miss Bev wouldn't let me just sit and be quiet." I said, "Well, you're a great talent. You got great books. How are people going to know they're out here if you don't tell them? I know you're shy, but you're going to have to get over that."
You want to say what her
And
name is?
AC Arthur. And she writes as Lacey something else too. She's got a pen name, but AC
A
Arthur. A
ACR a period
AC,
C.
yeah, AC Arthur.
Okay.
And great writer. So, I got stories like that where, you know, I, I'll go to signings and I'll ask my local writers if they want to come and sign with me. Because, yeah, there's some authors who are into being the only, and they got theirs, you get yours. But that doesn't serve the community. It doesn't help. It just makes you look like an asshole, you know, and readers pick up on that.
Yeah.
So if I can help somebody, come into the light, because I got a huge thing of light, I got lights like the sun. But if I can help somebody and help them stand up straighter and help them be known for what they do, um, I'm their girl. I'm their girl.
And again, it doesn't take away from you. Even if we were to experience the exact same thing, we're going to have a different story to tell about it.
Right, exactly. Exactly. We're all unique. So it behooves me, to act like I was raised well, and I was, to reach back, lend a hand. As one of my girlfriends used to say, life is slippery. We got to hold hands. So we're doing that. We're trying to do that.
I love that. So you gave so many points in your keynote speech, and I remember so many of them. And one of them was, don't let anyone shame you
Right.
for your writing, for who you are, for what you're writing, the genre that you're writing. And again, romance writers get a lot of shit
We
because
do.
yeah, but you so tell me the story, tell our listeners the story about the woman on the bus. If you remember that, do you
Yeah, I
remember
do.
that
I
one?
do. Yeah.
Okay, tell
Yeah, I
us
was
that
at the
story.
Miami Book Fair, which is an awesome, awesome book fair. Oh my God. If you get a chance to go down there, then please take advantage of the good time that it provides. But the hosts were providing us a ride between the hotel and the event. So I'm on my way back to the hotel and I'm on the bus with this woman. And she asked me what I wrote. And I said, "I write romance." And she said, "Oh, I write literature." I was like, "Bitch, really? Really?" I said, "So, how many books you got in print?" She didn't have a whole lot to say after that. So I said, "Well, maybe you might want to start writing romance." So yeah, yeah. She was, And she had nothing else to say for the rest of the 10-minute, 15-minute ride back to the hotel. But we get that a lot, as
Yeah.
romance writers. But romance is the largest selling book
Genre. Yeah. Yeah.
world in the world. Um, and a lot of quote unquote literary writers started out as romance because we are the the writers of hope. We are the writers of relationships. If I was someplace, and I don't remember, I've been in so many places in these 30 years. Um, and some guy was telling me, well, it don't take a whole lot to write about romance. I said, are you married? I said, so are you married? He said, yeah. I said, so can you write how you and your wife met and put in it everything that you think will make it sell and then sell it? And it's got to be 400 pages. And people are going to read it and want to read it more than once.
Mm.
And he just sort of, he didn't have a whole lot to say after that. And I'm like, this is so damn hard writing romance because, everybody's like, well, there's a formula. There's a formula for everything.
Yes.
There's a formula for science fiction. There's a formula for mystery. You ever seen a mystery without a dead body?
Right. Know your genre, right? Know all the tropes
Right.
of your genre.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And and lit fake literature, literary fiction. How many books are we going to read with them that some professor is trying to get next to his, opposite assistant or the had a failed marriage? I mean, come on now. There's a formula for that too.
Mhm.
Bunch of angst.
Mhm.
So we have very thick skin, romance writers do, but we don't take no shit.
Yeah.
On Twitter, when Twitter was Twitter, that was the number one rule. Don't poke the romance ladies. Don't poke the romance ladies. Just leave them alone. Because Mark Twain said never pick a fight with somebody who buys ink by the barrel. Well, never pick a fight with women who write about relationships by the barrel. We will gut you.
So that's a great segue into the first, and you have a new fan in me. Okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
I met you, I bought 3 of your books. This is the first one that I've read. Okay. To Catch a Raven.
Okay.
Now, again, you write about African American life in the 19th century. So this is romance, but it's romance with historical detail, like incredible historical detail, espionage, a heist, suspense, a prophetic child, multiple cons,
Yeah.
fabulous characters, fun. It's fun.
Uh-huh.
Raven is an incredibly strong, intelligent woman, which
Yeah.
I bet all your women in your stories
They
are
are. Yeah.
strong and intelligent.
I don't write weak women. Yep.
And Braxton Steele, oh, lordy lordy.
I don't
Oh
write for
my,
children either.
oh my goodness, no. So in addition to me reading and thinking about that time and being such a go, for what they're doing, and it's an exciting premise. And then I get to, and it's funny because my husband's like, so are you going to read me any of the steamy scenes? And I'm like, no, no.
Why not? Why
Although
not?
I
I have
I
readers
think
who do cuddle time. They do cuddle time with my books. They'll one person will read, maybe a chapter, and then the next night somebody will read the other chapter. You'll be surprised at the benefits.
I well, I guess I wouldn't be surprised. And so okay, I'm blushing right now.
No, it's all right.
but the combination of everything that you have in here is stunning and beautiful. And as you said before, I'm going to read it again because there's so much in here.
Yeah.
This was the third book in the Women Who Dare series. I want to go back now and read the first two books. So I read the third one and I felt like I didn't need to read the first two in order to
Yeah,
understand
they're
what was going on
standalone. They're
here.
all
They're
standalone.
standalone. But
Right. They're all standalones.
but now
Yeah.
I want to know more about the characters that you have in here. And this is Amazon editors pick for best romance, by the way. I'm sure you probably know that.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you about one sentence in here
Uh-huh.
that made me catch my breath. And it wasn't one of the steamy ones. So
Right.
it's toward the end of the book, page 271. Raven wonders, and this is a quote, if the country would ever value the men of the race the way their loved ones did.
Yeah. 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 Well, my books are a tribute to Black men too.
It kind of made
Because,
me want to cry
oh, yeah. Because the answer
because
is no.
the answer is no.
Yeah. Yeah. Answer's no. I have that kind of make you think kind of questions through all my books. Um, because nobody's given them their flowers.
Mm-mm.
And they have been fighting for this country since before it became a country.
Yeah.
Black men were in the French and Indian Wars, which took place before the Revolution. They fought during the Revolution. They, the mixed race, Jean de Couleur in Louisiana saved Andrew Jackson's ass, in the War 1812. The Buffalo Soldiers, quote unquote, tamed the West. They put up all the telegraph poles. They escorted all of the stagecoaches, and they got the least equipment. They got Custer's, hand-me-downs. The Black Seminole Scouts were in Texas for the Native Wars there, and the government promised them, "We'll take care of your families. We'll give you housing," and the government never made a promise it ever kept. So there they were, starving after leaving, which was fuel for me because I have a Black Seminole family who started robbing trains. My outlaw Julys, as a result of this. So, they've given, this country's given Black men so many lemons, and so few people are turning that into lemonade. So I'm trying to give them their due, show them in a light that few people see, because the men in my life have always been fabulous. Yeah, there's some you want to run over with your car. But there are Black men out there who love their wives, take care of their kids, and society would have us think that they're all dysfunctional, that they're all, abusers, that they're all, deadbeat dads, and they're not, so my books are a tribute to the African American history that we don't know about, and the Black men that we don't know about, so because the country would not have won the Civil War without the United States colored troops. And yet they went over and fought with World War I and came back, and some of them were lynched coming out of the trains. So it's a bittersweet kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But it's educational. I do entertainment and education.
Mm-hmm.
So my ladies and my readers have learned a lot, and I've learned a lot, these 30 years. So, but I'm glad you picked up on that, because that is one of the threads in my work.
It stopped me. I caught my breath when I read that line.
Yeah.
I did a lot of training on Buffalo Soldiers Field at West Point when I was a cadet at West Point. And
Yeah.
so, but there was not a lot taught
Yeah.
to us.
No. And
No.
it's being even more pared down, now. They're not probably not even going to show up in history books, depending on where this country, well, we know where this country is going right now, but
yeah, yeah.
we have our stories. We have our history. We have Bev Jenkins books,
Yes.
so
Yes, yes. And so, all right. So what's in the works right now?
what's in the works right now is for the first time in 30 years, I don't have a contract. So
And so what are you going to do with your time?
I am gonna see where we're gonna go. I have a great agent, and she and I have talked about some things. The only, I played in all the sandboxes. The only sandbox I have not played in is the one that I read the most, which is fantasy.
Okay.
So I'm a big fantasy reader, big fantasy reader. So I have this idea for, and it's been with me for a long time. I have a dragon book in me.
Okay.
I want to see a Black woman riding a dragon. We've had a couple out there, but they haven't been written by me. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm saying I need this. I need to do this for me, not for anybody else. So I got that. I have some women's fiction, of course, romance. Publishers seem to be pushing back on historicals, but there are still a couple publishers who are doing historicals. So I turned in the Last Blessings book the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And
Oh.
so that was my last book on the contract. Yeah. So I'm taking this time to, one, clean my house.
Pre-holiday.
Yeah, because I have been on a deadline, straight deadline, probably for the last 5 years. So windows need to be cleaned and all of that. And my agent said she needs about 50 pages of the dragon book that she can, put on the end of the fishing pole and see who wants to take a nibble.
Okay.
Um, so I'm just basically just enjoying catching my breath. I got a romantic suspense that I started probably, I don't know, 15 years ago
Okay.
that I have been it's a secondary character in Sexy Dangerous, one of my suspense. The woman is a government assassin.
Okay.
And so the readers really, really resonated on this guy. He's like on a page, but the readers know what they want. So I started it 15 years ago, and I have been lying to them about finishing it since then. So I am working on that. I got 6 chapters done. I've been feeding them a chapter. Back in May, I started feeding them a chapter a month, but I only got 6 chapters done. So I'm working on that. And all this other stuff that, I have never had a problem with coming up with a story. I got girlfriends who have just awful time trying to figure out, it's like pulling nails out of cement with your hands for them. But for me, I got like I say, I have a green room in my head, and all these characters are sitting around going, doing this. When is it my turn? So we shall see. I mean, I got a lot less time ahead of me than I had behind me.
Yeah.
I'll be 74 in February. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what the muse sends me. And, if I can stay healthy and wealthy, and well, I don't know about the wealthy part. Stay healthy and
Otherwise
wise.
part.
Yeah, healthy and wise. It should have another, hopefully, 10 years of writing, maybe. Hopefully. We'll see.
Yeah. I know I keep dreaming. As long as I keep dreaming, I keep having stories. I mean, my
Yeah.
characters and scenes come to me in dreams. And yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
with the amount of time you spend in the library and everything that you've read, boy, you've got a gajillion more to write.
Oh,
So
girl.
give our listeners some advice. Anyone who's already a writer or thinking about being a writer,
Okay.
what's some
Number
of your best
one.
advice?
Number one. Finish the damn book.
Yeah.
We spent all this time, and I was guilty of this too, talking about the book. And I'm working on this book. And and it got to the point where, like I said, I got 6 brothers and sisters, and three oldest girls, me and my two sisters below me. They were all like, so how is the book coming?
The book.
You know, so finish the book.
Yeah.
And that first draft, don't worry what it looks like. Don't worry about the grammar. Don't worry about plot holes. Don't worry about any of that. All you want to do is finish it.
Yeah.
So that you can get that sense of accomplishment of having done it. And then let it sit for 2 weeks or a week. And then bring it out and write your story. Look at the characters, look at your scenes, look at the rhythm, look at plot holes, and don't rush it. It's going to be done when it's done. Nobody gets a prize for writing quickly. Maybe Nora does. I don't know. Robert does. But then she's an old hand at it, so she can do it with her eyes closed. So finish the book. Don't worry about the first draft. And don't give up. Don't give up. Somebody wants to read that. There's an audience out there. I was in, where was I? Mississippi. And I'm a smoker. So I was outside smoking, and this young woman came up to me, and we were talking. And she said, you know, what do I do? And I told her I was a writer. And she said, I wish you'd talk to my husband. And I said, well, what's wrong with your husband? She said, he just trashed his laptop and has given up. And I said, why? She said, because he had an MFA, which sometimes is not real helpful.
Right.
You're trying to write, right? And he only sold 3 books on Amazon after he, you know, put all that work. I said, well, no. Tell him, can I talk to him on the phone? What, you know? So if you give up, nobody's going to be able to read it. You are unique. Your stories are unique. It may take you some time, but yeah. Those are the main things. I mean, I could go on for till Tuesday.
I know you could. And your 10-point keynote speech was awesome. You know, you talked about, you know, not letting anyone shame you about your habits or your genre. I mean, I'm kind of a binge writer. You know, some people will say you have to write every day. You have to write 1,000 words every day. I don't.
No,
and
no, you know, we got lives. You know,
yeah,
we got children. We got husbands. We got, you know, some days I want to make bread, you know.
garbage
And
disposals that back up.
yes, yes,
root,
yes.
root canals that need to be taken care of. Oh, I had mine yesterday.
Yeah, yes, exactly. You know, and it, you know, they talk about who is that with Walden Woods, Thoreau.
Thoreau, yeah.
Now he went out into the woods and he's writing and all of this. His mama was bringing him his dinner.
I know.
You know, his mama was washing his clothes. Get out of here with that.
Get it. Thoreau. Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Oh my gosh, Beverly Jenkins, this has been an absolute delight. And I could talk to you till next Tuesday and ask you more
I could too.
questions, but where would you like people to follow you?
You can follow me on Blue Sky. I have left the hellhole that is now used to be Twitter,
That
but I'm
works, yeah.
also Miss Bev. I'm also on Facebook. I have 1, 2, 3 pages, and there's also a fans of Beverly Jenkins page that is open to everyone, and they have a hell of a time. Right now, we're doing hot chocolate, which is
Okay.
my homage to half-dressed Black men. We do this every year. And the deacon at my church a couple years ago, he said, why am I getting these half-naked men on my page? I said, I'm sorry, but you know, you knew the job was dangerous when you signed up for me. So, but yeah, me and the readers have a lot of fun. I say good morning to them every morning, and I say good night every night. And who knows what kind of chaos I'm gonna cause in between. But yeah, right now it's hot chocolate time. So you can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on Blue Sky. You can sign up for my newsletter via my website, and that's free. I'm not very good about being timely with it though, because I'm basically a very lazy lady.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Oh, I only have 60 books or
Yeah,
so. Yeah,
yeah,
and I've got about,
yeah,
60 more to write. Yeah,
yeah.
I just joined Blue Sky today because I was
Oh,
listening
good.
listening to your
Okay, well,
keynote
follow me
speak.
and I'll follow you back.
I already did. I already
Oh,
followed you, Ms.
can I
Beth.
follow you back?
Yeah, I don't know.
Can I follow
I
you
haven't
back?
looked at
Okay.
you. Happy to follow me
Oh, I
back.
will look.
I'm at Laurel McHargue. That's just, yeah, who I am. Um,
Okay, good.
Beverly, Ms.
Yes.
Bev, thank you so much. And I am looking forward to, let's see, which one should I read next? Topaz or Bring on the Blessings?
Oh,
Which
read them both and
read the book? Okay.
read Topaz first because
Okay.
that's a historical you'll enjoy. And then the Blessing series, there's 12 books.
Okay.
You should read them in order and you're going to want to because
Okay.
it's an awesome kind of series. So thank you
All
so
right.
much for having
No,
me.
no, thank you. And Merry Christmas. And listeners, you can find show notes with links and photos. And there's going to be a photo on there that let's see, was it a bit controversial that
Yeah.
I exposed you at the Rocky Mountain
Hey,
Fiction Writers Conference? I'm going to
I'm a
put
black
that.
woman. I'm supposed to have that shirt on.
I am going to show that photo, which is wonderful, and it made me know that I loved you. And Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy all the days, and
Same to you.
I will absolutely be in touch. So,
All right.
listeners,
I'd love to do
follow.
this again. Let me know what you think after you get a few of my books under your belt.
I will, and once we have something on the TV series, let me know too, because we gotta get
Oh,
that
for
out there.
sure. Sure.
All
If you
right.
have not watched Jingle Jangle, watch it.
Watch Jingle Jangle. Okay. All right.
Okay.
That sounds
It's
like a great
John
holiday.
Legend's thing, especially if you have grandkids or whatever. So,
I'm gonna have my first grandchild in February.
oh, it's what date? Because my birthday's the 15th.
Well, we'll see. The date is maybe the 17th. So, well,
Oh,
we'll
okay.
see. We'll see. It's gonna be a little
Okay.
boy. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm very
happy early grandma.
thank you. I'm very excited. I'm gonna be a Nana Banana and my husband's gonna be a Pawpaw. And so yeah, we're excited about
Well,
that.
the
So
kids, the baby's gonna call you what they want to call you,
yeah, I
but don't
that's
put that in stone, okay?
okay. Okay, fine. I won't.
You can
Um,
say what you want, but the baby, the baby,
he's gonna call me whatever as long as he calls
whatever.
me. As long
Yeah,
as he calls me, I'll be happy.
my girlfriend's grandson calls her mom, mom,
Mom. Yeah.
mom, mom, because her son was getting in the car with the kid, and he was trying to get her attention, her son. And he was like, mom, mom. And so the baby calls her mom, mom.
Love it. I love it. So we'll see. I'll let you know. And
Okay, please
I'll
do.
be in touch then. Again,
Okay.
happy holidays, everyone, and stay safe out there. And Beverly, please keep writing these awesome books.
Oh, you're so welcome.
I'm
Thank you.
hooked. All right. Bye.